This is Van Vance. You're listening to the Prophet Report podcast with Doug Prophet.
If anyone can pull off a daytime fireworks show, Wayne Hettinger can do it. Hey everyone, I'm Doug Prophet, and thanks for listening. The man who has produced Thunder Over Louisville for 30 years actually did that. He created that fireworks show at noon in the late 1980s. I was there covering it for WHAS 11. It wasn't called Thunder yet. It was the opening ceremonies of the Derby Festival at the Thereof Luncheon outside the Galt House. But it later became Thunder, and it moved to nighttime, and the rest is now a local and cherished tradition. Wayne, at age 72, is a great success story. He actually worked here at WHAS TV as a graphics artist, starting here in 1968. He then opened his own business called Visual Presentations in 1976 in the basement of his home in Jeffersontown. If you've ever wondered some of the secrets of the giant fireworks show, you're going to learn about them in this edition of the Prophet Report podcast. You're going to begin this Thunder with some Disney music. What's the first one they're going to hear?
You're going to hear Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Straight out of the gates, we get to zero, and then it's going to start.
Say that again?
Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. And then you're going to see the pixie dust spring across the bridge from one side to the other, and then we're turning it loose from there.
Nobody says Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo better than you. How did you? What has helped your voice get to that level?
It's like I was saying. It's probably a whole lot of, should we go on the air with this?
It's a podcast, Wayne.
Too much nicotine and bourbon, I
guess. Wayne, everybody, when I said I was going to talk to you, this is the 30th Thunder, by the way.
Yes, it is, and that's hard to imagine.
You have produced every single one of them.
Right.
Before it was even called Thunder, right?
Right.
Going back 30 years.
It's been a ride.
Everybody, I said, I'm going to interview Wayne Hettinger, and I said, if you had a question, what would you ask him? The first one I want to know his favorite Thunder. Of all 30 of them, he's got to have one year that was the favorite.
No, I can't answer that. But I guess the one in my mind that I always revert to is our first year down the river, which was actually our second year, because that was, I really had some nervous feelings about that. I mean, that took it on such a scale that none of us had been anywhere close to anything on that magnitude of production. And, that was a little bit nervous, but boy, that's dear to my heart, because that first year,
that was the first one at night, right?
No, that was the second one at night. The first night one was at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
And then we moved after that down onto the river.
So the first one, though, was the famous daylight fireworks.
Well, that was the opening ceremonies. It wasn't even called Thunder then. So that was the lead-in. It was the launch. We did it at noontime. It was broadcast back into the Galt House at the Thereof Luncheon so that they could see what we were doing. And that was just kind of a test to see how it was going. So we did do some daytime fireworks. Didn't amount to a whole lot. But we released 10,000 helium balloons, and that was a spectacular look.
I remember standing down there, and because I've been here now 32 years, I've covered all the Thunders, including the famous daytime fireworks, and me and a couple of other reporters looked at each other and go, what is this? We've never seen daytime fireworks before.
Yeah, that and boy, when I think back about that, they're really doing some spectacular things now with daytime fireworks. The technology on fireworks has changed tremendously.
You say this year's Thunder, the 30th Thunder, is going to be great for people from 8 to 80. Why is that, and why do you say it's going to be the most unusual one they'll see? Well, you've got a lot to pack in.
Right, and because of all the music that we're using for the real heart of the show is Disney tunes, whether it's from the park or movies or television shows. It's all music that everybody's grown up with. It's going to be different because it's going to have that Disney feel throughout, which means it's kind of a slower pace, but an impactful pace. So it's going to have a totally different feel to it right up to what we call our finale, and then it's time to buckle up because we're going to back you against the wall. Now,
I know how Disney operates.
Right.
What did you have to pay them to use all this music?
All of that, obviously, oddly enough, Disney doesn't own all of their music. So it's all obviously through ASCAP, BMI, and you know what that's all about.
Right.
And I was Matt Gibson at the Kentucky Derby Festival. Matt, that's another one of his 1,000 pieces of jobs to get all that straightened out. So it's just like using any of the other music that we've done over the years.
So as I look back at 30 years of you, I really had some rapid fire questions for you. Your favorite absolute rock and roll song that is always in Thunder?
There's not a rock and roll song there's only one song that's in every Thunder, and that's been When You Wish Upon a Star. That's the one song that's been in every Thunder.
That's a tribute to your daughter.
Well, it was, because you go back 30 years, she was getting ready to go to college, and it was kind of, I kept on saying, you got to shoot for your stars. You got to find your direction, and it was a direct hit back to her with make your plan and follow your dreams.
So is there one rock and roll song that has always been played?
No. Not a rock and roll.
So,
no.
On my way down here to meet you at the station, I listened to Living on a Prayer because I figured that was a usual suspect. And I looked on YouTube. It had 581 million plays. Of course, it's the most successful rock song ever.
Right.
Has that one been in every Thunder?
No, it has not. We try to always mix it up. Now, we have done a Best of Thunder. I don't even remember what year that was, but I would love to do that again because that gives you a chance to pull out just the really good stuff.
Well, when you produce the 50th Thunder, there you go.
Well, that's exactly what I'm shooting for.
The one song you'll never, ever play again or hasn't been played in many years.
Oh, the one. Boy, I tell you what, again, back to trying to find that music that shows off the fireworks. So we really had a struggle with the year that we did all country songs. And I like country music, but it's just not conducive to getting gunpowder off the ground. It's kind of all the same kind of meter, if you will. So, and that was rough. So
you've always told me you need music that can lift fireworks because
Correct.
You choreograph it with the Zambellis,
right?
Who are doing the fireworks on the barge
Correct.
in the middle of the river. The one year though was when you went all the local music or the Kentucky music. That one was tough for you too.
That was tough.
That Thunder didn't go over well with the audience.
No, that's what I've heard. Yeah, and so you try different things. You're always trying to find something different, and you're going at it knowing that how it's going to be perceived, and you do the best you can, and then wait. And if it really works, then you take a real hard look at it and go, we need to do more of that.
The Thunder you wish never happened.
No, there's not one of those. I can tell you instances within Thunders that I went, we won't do that again. Prime example. I get grief I get teased about this a lot from the production crew. This was back when you're sitting there with a blank piece of paper, and one of the sponsors thought they wanted to do something with Leanne Rimes, that they were going to get her in, and I thought, well, we're going to have a problem because there's no place that I can put a stage in the middle of Thunder to let her perform without creating a mob scene around one stage when we're scattered as much as we are. So I had this wonderful idea at the time of I'm going to put her on a barge and we'll float her alongside the bank, and everybody will get to see her. So she'll do her song set as the barge is moving down. And technically, it was a huge undertaking because we had to get signal from a moving barge, which meant we had to microwave it back up to the command center to get it back out. But the problem of it was the bridge was in the way, so we had to bounce those signals in 3 different directions around town to get around the bridge and back to the command center. And as it ended up, the river, the level came up, The barges couldn't get as close to the bank as they wanted. So basically, this barge went by, and I don't think anybody knew that Leanne Rimes was out there. I caught a lot of grief over that. It was one of those great ideas at the time. It just didn't work out.
Because every year, when you're with 30 years now, you're trying to reinvent every year and also make it a little fresh. Well, would that land under your funniest moment of all Thunders, or do you have a funniest moment?
Boy, I tell you what, the funniest moments are going to get published in a book when I'm all done.
You got to give me one, because I gave you the question ahead of time.
Yes, I will give you one, because you go back with me for 30 years, and for people that are listening, when you were brought into WHAS television, you were the investigative reporter. Boy, you went after a lot of people, and that was one of the years of our first year down on the river. Ben Harper, who you remember well, he was, he never gets enough credit. He was essential with Kroger getting Thunder off the ground.
He was the driving force.
And he absolutely loved it. And I had a ball with him. And the show was underway. And somebody called up and said, Doug Prophet is on his way up to do an interview. Well, we all freaked out because you were the investigative reporter. And Ben went nuts. He said, he's going to come up here and he's going to try to find some negative thing. I'm not going to stay. And he went and locked himself in the bathroom in the command center. Well, you came up and did your thing, and you left, and somebody went over to knock on the door to tell him that, well, Doug Prophet's gone. You're okay. Come on out. The door was locked and broken, and he was locked in the bathroom and couldn't get out. So we've got the maintenance people from the Galt House up there trying to take the door off the hinges, and Terry Miner showed up. So, Wild Man Terry, he went crazy, and he was doing an interview with Ben through the locked bathroom door. He had oh my gosh.
And I remember that, but the interview wasn't negative. It wasn't investigative. It was just about, I was the guy working, and they said, go get this interview with those guys. Just sort of like we're doing here. Right. That is a wonderful story. I've never heard it.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me it. I'd say that is one of the great, funniest moments.
It was a funny moment. And there's a lot of funny moments that weren't funny at the time, but you're looking back at them now and we laugh.
You have to include that in a book.
Oh, I will. And Ben and I are still friends. Ben's been retired for lots of years now.
There's a wonderful moment that you've crafted for every Thunder that comes at night. It appears in the night sky, and I want to let our listeners to hear a moment of it. This is from our coverage of Thunder just a couple of years ago.
I was born on July 4th, 1776. And the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate. The bloodlines of the world run through my veins because I offered freedom to the oppressed. I am many things and many people. I am the nation. I am 243 million living souls, and the ghost of millions who have lived and died for me. I am Nathan Hale and Paul Revere. I stood at Lexington and fired the shot heard around the world. I am Washington, Jefferson, and Molly Pitcher.
And Wayne, what I'm talking about, of course, is right before the fireworks start. The flag appears, the American flag. Tell me about the creation of it. Everybody, of course, remembers the year Walter Cronkite did it, but as you told me, he only did it 1 year.
Right.
Was it?
That's correct.
And what were you after to produce, because you're the producer, and walk our listeners through that moment?
Well, you got to go back in that period of time, and the country was really decisive, I guess you will. I mean, I was trying to get a lot of our sponsors to, we got to take a stand and go crazy with American flags. And at that time, everybody was a little antsy. They didn't want to start anything. And I thought, well, we got to do it. And I'm a veteran for 2 years in the Army. And I came through with the Vietnam guys. Thankfully, I didn't have to go overseas. I spent my whole time stateside. But I always felt high respect for anybody that was willing to put their life on the line for this country. And I'm very strong about that. So I had produced a show, co-produced a show with John McGee, who was my mentor. He and I wrote this poem that you heard for a celebration that we were doing in 1976. It was a takeoff of 1776. So that poem kind of came out of that, and it was just put away in my files. We hadn't done anything with it since 76. And I thought, boy, that would really be fitting for the show to show our patriotism. And then I was thinking, boy, how can we do this visually? And I contacted, I'm trying to think of their name. It was a helicopter group out of St. Louis. And I was talking to them about flying flags through while we were doing this poem read. Doug, it sounds so silly now, but back then we were trying to get that figured out. It's not as simple as it sounds, because these helicopters, these flags are 60 feet long. And to get them suspended hanging from under the helicopter, and when you started that forward movement, and then they would swing back and just turn into a roll. So the flag wasn't. And
you've got somebody on the ground with a spotlight following it.
Yes, well that was what we're going to have to do too. Once we worked that out, we were going to have to cover it with searchlights to light it. So there was actually 2 months of trial and error of this helicopter. Hook the flag up. We'll go try it again. We were putting weights under it. So you're looking at a long string hanging down from under the helicopter with a weight, and then the flag on that line. So as it ended up, it took, I'm trying to remember, 650 pounds of concrete and steel as a weight that would hold that line taut so that this flag would furl at a certain speed. So it finally all got worked out. And then the next thing was, okay, we can get this to happen. We got to get the searchlights to cover it.
So the flag has a 650-pound weight in it?
Yes.
That's being flown through the air?
Yes. Nowadays, we're flying it with banner tows. We're not using those big flags anymore.
And so the airplanes aren't bothered by that, with that weight, I guess.
Well, these helicopters that we were using, the reason we had to go to St. Louis was they were heavy lift.
They were heavy duty.
Yeah.
So in the end, what you created, though, was this amazing focal point of this giant crowd that usually swells to 500,000 or more, right, both sides of the river.
Right.
And you're telling them, we're getting close. This is what the moment's about. And then I guess you decided to have Walter Cronkite read it. What was it like reaching him and getting him to do that?
I was taking a shot that he was going to do it. And he did. And I thought, okay, we'll do it. And you know what the technical process is. We're going to do this phone patch and blah, blah, blah. We didn't hear. All of a sudden, I got this tape. He just sent the tape. There wasn't any phone patch, and there wasn't any, let's try that again. It was Walter Cronkite doing what he did. He read it once, straight through, with no second takes, and it was great. It was
Did you ever communicate with him?
I did, and that poem, I had produced posters with that saying on it, and with some graphics, and I sent him one of those, and he sent it back to me. It was signed, so that one's framed and hanging in my office.
Do you know what the time is? The flag's in the air. How long is it in the air?
It's like 4 minutes.
Because I want to talk about your timing and how it is precision and how every tune is timed out in just a second. When my conversation with Wayne Hettinger continues, the original producer of Thunder Over Louisville, now in its 30th year, right after this on the Prophet Report podcast. It's blue. It's historic. And under its roof, one man is changing lives. I wanted to take a quick break from our Thunder conversation to invite you to check out episode number 9 of the Prophet Report. Blue House founder Keith Cook. This former orchestra member set up an after-school music program, Violins for West Louisville kids, inside a 120-year-old historic home. The home was in a rough neighborhood. Cook wanted it to be a beacon of light, so he painted it blue to stand out. But then, age and no money for repairs threatened to collapse it all, literally. Wait until you hear what he had to do when it rained. And the music never stopped. Episode number 9 of the Prophet Report. I love the Blue House. Please check it out. Now, back to Wayne Hettinger and Thunder Over Louisville. Wayne, I remember one time you released your music list.
Right.
And the years that we at WHS 11 get to broadcast Thunder, I like to get really involved, and you give it to me. And I noticed second by second.
Oh, it's down to the 10th of a second.
Yeah, and if a song is even 30 seconds long, like a theme tune or whatever, you may not even run the whole 30 seconds. You'll run maybe 15 seconds of it and then fade away to the next song.
Correct. Yeah.
Does Thunder always stay on time?
Oh, absolutely. It's 28 and a half minutes. Now, over the years, it was like people, we've got all these fireworks. We want, we could make this an hour show. That was one of the things that I stayed with all along. We're going to keep it to a half hour. We get more fireworks. We're going to add more fireworks within that half hour. That's what makes Thunder Thunder.
Has it always been 28 minutes for 30 years? Or
Yes.
was it longer?
No, it's always been 28 and a half minutes. And it's because of television timing. It was time to get them in and out of commercial spots. And also, we stay right at that.
28, because everybody always has thought, well, because the way it's promoted, it'll be bigger and better next year. And in your mind,
it's going to be longer.
And you're now busting the myth. You're right. It's always been 28 minutes.
Yeah, we get more gunpowder, we'll pack it in that 28 and a half minutes.
Now, from my point of view, from broadcasting the air show, I have found that it runs amazingly on time if your weather's good.
Right.
There are very few changes. I mean, some years can be tumultuous. I remember one year the air show program was being moved all around for different reasons, but most of the time,
it's dead on. I mean, perfect weather, you can take it right down to the second. But again, Doug, this brings up a whole nother thing. When I started this, there's 20 key chairs in the command center, and the people that it was like, who am I filling these 20 people? Who are these 20 people? Fortunately, I was able to get a hold of the best. I didn't realize how good they were until we were all functioning.
Well, they're all veterans from public safety, EMS, aircraft. They know Louisville and Kentuckiana.
They do.
They know every inch of this town from the air and the ground.
They do. And it's marvelous to sit back and watch these guys do what they do. And it's all about that attitude. These 20 people, they're all there having a ball with it. We're all having a good time with it. We do what we do, and we're having a great time.
So a lot of people believe that you just recycle the list of music every year, throw it up in the air, and see how it comes down.
No, that would take all the fun out of it.
How do you pick your themes every year?
Well, that's in conversations with Derby Festival. There's several committee meetings going on, because a lot of times we're trying to tie it into their all-over theme with all the 70-plus events that they're going to be doing.
You've 30 years. You've pretty much done a lot of the themes. You've done the 70s, you've done the 80s, you've done the country one that you said really wasn't the best one. You did the local orchestra one. And I know that you've probably for a long time wanted to do the Disney one.
We have. And I must say that's pretty much a tribute to Mike Berry, who's retiring at the end of this year. Mike was always wanting to do a Disney-themed Thunder. And obviously, in talking with Mike, it was like, Mike, if you're leaving, this is going to be your year for it. Let's do the Disney. So that's what we're doing. Mike,
of course, the head of the Kentucky Derby Festival, the group that has to raise the money for the sponsors and put these events on. And he came in here to the station. We did a final interview with him as he was leaving. And I said to him, you've always had to struggle to get funding for Thunder because it's so expensive. What are you going to tell your predecessor? Is it the most important thing? He said, yes, I'm going to tell him. That's the most important thing. Do you worry about its future? Oh,
I absolutely do. I can't say enough kind things about our sponsors. Doug, people don't realize in the air show industry, just for an example, to go to an air show completely free is unheard of in the air show industry. And you've got these sponsors that are picking up the tab for the entire cost of this event and making it free to the general public. And I got to tell you, that's what keeps us right up there in good graces with military support, is because we're offering what we do free to everyone.
That's why, folks, you'll always see a UPS jet flying through that air on Thunder.
You betcha.
So going back to picking the themes.
Right.
Which one excited you the most? I mean, you're of that genre of the 70s.
You're an
old rock and roller.
Right off the top, and this might surprise you, it was the space theme, because trying to tie all those thoughts into a space theme. It was 2001
Space
Odyssey, but we did 2001 Festival Odyssey, and I was able to meet one of the guys that was retiring. He was the launch control director for the shuttle at NASA, Jim Harrington, who's become a very good close friend of mine and Pam's, and he was able to come up and be our Thundernator that year. And I had a ball getting to know Jim. He's had a great time, and we stay in touch. Great friend.
How do you handle the feedback and criticism? Because some years it's just applause, standing ovation, and then other years people go, I'm not sure about that.
Well, here we go with my association with Derby Festival again. They're the ones that catch all of that.
People don't reach out to you. You don't get emails
or nothing like. I don't get the mass response from the public that Derby Festival does, and criticism is good. It can direct you in.
Did public criticism ever help you change a Thunder or make sure you never did something ever again? Something that you tweaked based on something you heard from the public?
And you know what? I know there is, and just sitting here blind, I can't think of.
I'll tell you how people feel ownership of Thunder.
Oh, that's a wonderful thing. Now you've brought up a good hot button of mine, because when that 5th year at Thunder down on the riverfront, this when Ben Harper was still involved, and it kind of hit us both at the same time. If you just had that magic feeling that the community wrapped its arms around it. Good explanation of it. You could start hearing people talk about, what we do at Thunder. They took ownership with that one word, we. It's like they're talking about their ball team.
Their family traditions.
That's right.
Now.
We at University of Louisville ball team. As soon as you hear that connection of we, they took ownership.
Where they park, how early they get there, what they bring.
Right.
Their escape route, whether they're going to camp the day before, or they're going to maybe now become last minute Thunder people.
Yes,
who will come in, maybe watch the air show on television, then zip in for the fireworks.
Correct. Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you hear the different takes on all this. I've even heard years ago there used people that tried to time themselves crossing the bridge when the fireworks started and then come to a stop. Of course, they stopped that from a traffic concern. But
I'll go back to the ownership from the television side.
Right.
Every single shot we do when the fireworks, or when the air show begins right through the fireworks, has to be so thought out. Every single shot can be controversial in the eyes of the viewer.
For sure.
If they don't like it, they don't like what we're focusing on or showing or an angle,
you're going to
hear about it.
Of course.
Now, we use their criticism to fine-tune a broadcast and make it better the next year. We've always responded to the viewer criticism. We really have.
And that's essential at Derby Festival.
But for you, you've got the 28 minutes. You really can't deviate from that.
Well, yes, we can. If there's something within that 28 minutes that offended a good portion of the crowd or what, you're going to pay attention to it. If you're not in the entertainment business.
People ought to know that Wayne actually had a long, good career here at WHAS TV. You're familiar with this building.
Oh, my first day at WHAS was the first day this building opened.
1968.
Yeah, right.
You were here then when they came down from the Courier Journal?
Yeah, right.
So you worked with Phyllis Knight.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, Melton Metz. Oh, absolutely.
And what were you doing?
I was in the art department. We were setting the world on fire back then.
So you were involved with Fisby, who was still around then.
Absolutely.
You were the creative, the art for the newscaster design in promos.
I did the first animation that we did out of here was for the Omelet program that Milton Metz.
You drew the egg?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that was my that was my little cartoon first run at animation.
Are you the artist behind the egg?
Oh, yeah, right.
Well,
that's my background.
That's an icon. Well, he's happy. The egg is happy, and he's silly, and Milton.
I'm impressed that you even remember.
Oh, who can forget the egg in the animation? Did you do the animation?
Yes. Yeah.
So did they create it here in the building? The animation?
We did. Yes.
How would you? I don't even know how you would do that.
Well, I mean, it was frame by frame. I had to do the individual cell drawings for the chicken coming out of the egg.
Milton had a T-shirt with it.
Yes, he did.
Do you still have one?
Milton. There's another mentor of mine. He was just great.
He loved omelet, and he wore all that logo stuff. Do you have a T-shirt still?
I don't have a T-shirt, but I've got the original artwork from it.
Oh my gosh! And it had the little silly song that it opened with.
Yeah, boy, I'm going to leave here and go check that out. Boy, some of the memories are great, And I was here, I think I was here for 2 months, and that's when I got drafted. And I did my 2 years and came back.
Did you, by the way, I guess I'm sorry, I'm focused on the omelet egg.
That's quite all right.
Did you create the theme song?
No, that was, boy, I'm trying to remember, Doug. I can't remember where that came about. I bet you it was created
here in this building.
I just don't remember.
It was called Omelet because it was supposed. I asked Milton this one time. It was supposed to be sort of a late morning thing, and then he said, "Well, then they moved us all over the time period. And at one point, we were like after lunch,
right?
So we were calling it late omelet.
Well, yeah, and it was the whole omelet thing was about a mix,
But Wayne, and for folks who probably will wonder what I'm talking about, Omelet was a live show every day that was, I think, originally airing at 9 or 10 a.m. or something like that.
I think it was 9:30.
9:30, hosted by Milton Metz and Faith Lyles.
Right.
And the people he had on that show, there's we have the tape of John Cougar Mellencamp when he was a little kid coming down here from southern Indiana. They had political figures and presidential candidates.
Yeah, it was a heck of a program. It really was.
Colonel Sanders was in there all the time.
That's right.
So you used all those skills for Thunder, and how did
my drawing board just kept getting bigger.
So you were doing the Derby, the Kentucky Derby there off lunch and opening festivals.
Correct.
And then was there one person who said, let's call it Thunder Over Louisville? And
Ben Harper.
Ben was the man behind the name.
At that time, Tom Cruise movie had just come out, and the movie was Thunder. Boy, I forgot what the name of them, but it used the word thunder. And Ben brought that up and went, boy, that's got the power and the feel that this program needs. And he was the one that coined the phrase Thunder Over Louisville.
Were you originally shocked by the size of the crowds?
Absolutely. It was that first year down on the river. We were getting everything underway, and Tim Crete, who's my director, who's been with me since day one, we were running around doing the last-minute things, and Tim walked over and he said, have you looked out the window? And I said, no, what? He said, go take a look. You ain't going to believe this. And it was shocking, Doug. You could see this wave of people moving into the waterfront. I mean, it was... I can't begin to describe that feeling when you saw this mass of humanity coming.
It eclipses the Derby and the Oaks used to be the top crowd getters. Thunder eclipses what they bring.
It's 8 times the size.
And for a Derby festival event, the biggest crowd getter used to be the Great Steamboat Race.
Right.
And of course, Thunder has now peeled into everything because everybody's so worn out.
Right.
Okay, the fireworks show's going on.
Right.
You've had 30 years to at least watch it. I know maybe in the first years you probably didn't get to pay much attention to it, but now, what's your favorite part of it? Is it toward the end?
It'll be in different sections when I know a particular piece of music is getting ready to blend into the next one, that we were sitting around and really working about, boy, this is going to be a beautiful transition with fireworks. So there'll be key points in it that I'm really excited about looking for. And then, of course, the finale, that's just kind of, you just kind of grin from ear to ear. And
How did it work? Did you say, I've got the music, create the fireworks to that? Or did they say, okay, this is what we'll do at this moment? You find the music to match what the Zambellis have crafted.
No, it's always the soundtrack comes first. That sets the tone for the whole thing.
So when do you get the soundtrack to the Zambellis, the fireworks folks?
Let's see. We usually try to get it to them by the end of February.
Wow.
It takes a long time for them. Yeah, they've got 42 tons of fireworks to program into this. And Ralph, that's doing all the programming now with the fire, this guy is amazing.
So they really put a lot of emphasis, though, in the end, in the big ta-da.
Oh, absolutely.
In the 2nd Street Bridge.
Yeah, there's no... Doug, everybody wants that finale.
Of course, but then you always do the teaser.
Right.
Where you kill the show, and everybody thinks it's over with.
Yeah, let's talk about that, and I'll tell you how that happened. It was one of those... here's where the technology was changing with fireworks. We were doing so many fireworks in those early days that we were creating a lot of smoke. So it was like, golly, we've got all this smoke, and now we're getting ready to move into this finale. You know what? Let's let everything calm down for a minute before we kick off the finale. That kind of became a tradition after that. The technology now, you have very little smoke compared to what it was in those early years. But we leave that minute pause in there because it's a great tease. And I love hearing these stories with people that bring somebody down for the first time and they go, that was great. And they say, well, just hold on. You ain't going to.
Oh, yeah. All the newbies, everybody goes, okay, we're ready to go. They say, well, wait a second.
That's right.
This is not our first rodeo. So that pause moment, which hooks everybody, was created as a bit of a necessity at first.
Exactly.
To clear smoke.
Right.
That would have been when you figured that out, year 1 or 2, you said, all right, when did you figure the smoke was so bad?
Second year, yeah.
So when did the pause begin?
Well, it was that second year.
Second year.
Yeah.
And when was it after that you figured out that people really were hooked on that moment? They were waiting for that moment. They knew your tricks.
Oh, that was obvious. I mean, I'm telling you, when you're standing up in the command center, from your television experience, you don't have to hear people say it. You can feel it. You can literally feel the emotion. So when you're up in the command center and any of those real magic moments happen, boy, you can feel it. And it's an adrenaline high. There's no question about it.
You knew you'd created a special moment.
Yeah,
It
just happened. Absolutely. Yeah, it was one of those aha. And and I love it. As soon as we do our what I refer to as the false finale, and then it shuts down, and then we start sneaking the soundtrack up with Bogey's March.
That's another signature of yours.
Yes. And that's when you can feel that emotion. And then you start hearing people start to cheer because they know what's coming.
Did you create these moments because you knew they were great psychological moments for people to put markers along the way? Well, first, there's the song, the tribute to your daughter, and then Bogey's March will always be, there's the flag in the air.
Right.
There's the pause.
That's showbiz.
Did you take psychology classes or something?
Well, but that's showbiz. When you're producing a show, you're always dealing with emotions. I want to make you cry. I want to make you feel good. I want you to fall down laughing. I want you cheering. So you're trying to build this roller coaster for everybody, So you're going to take them on a high and drop them down, and then get serious for a minute and come back and make you laugh, So that's what you're trying to do. It's entertainment.
Did you know those moments would become signature moments that people they have a marker in their mind that when you're at that certain point, it's an excitement level, or they're waiting for it. They're waiting. Wish upon a star.
Yeah, I would love to say, I'm so smart. I planned all that out. No, a lot of it just happens and it fits and it works. So you take that and look for that next one.
So have you already thought about year 31 next year?
But we're always talking 5 years down the road, and so Day of Thunder, all the key players will be here. A lot of conversation is going on then toward the following year because it's happening right then and everybody's making suggestions. And
so how old are you now?
I'll be 73 in July.
Do you have a succession plan in place?
Matt Gibson, again, down at Derby Festival, he and I have talked that over for years. I'm trying to find that person. It's back to who's that person that cares about this more than they do a paycheck.
Are you ready to retire?
No,
I didn't think so. Let's make that clear.
No, let's make it real clear, because I'm having a ball with it. I am. I get as excited about it now as the first one. I really do. It's obviously, as you know, it's a part of my life.
You've never canceled it because of weather?
Never. No.
The air show's been affected, but the fireworks never have. So you need somebody that has the same passion as what you're saying about Thunder, who will know the ins and outs, but don't they need to be working along with you right now, observing and being your shadow?
Well, we've talked about that, and it gets very complicated because there's not that, well, at 8:30 Monday morning, I'll be doing this. I'm not sure, so I can't get somebody in to shadow me. Whoever takes my place, Doug, they're gonna find their own way of doing it, and it'll be a different show, which is great. But it's certainly in our forethought of thinking for sure. Nobody gets to do this forever.
Well, maybe you've hit on some future themes here. Maybe the Wayne retirement.
Well, who knows?
I was thinking about all the music over the years as we wrap this up, and I know that you've played a lot of Queen, and there's that movie that came out, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
Did you see it, and what did you think of it?
I was there opening day, absolutely. Number one, I like the music, and again, it's that drive music, and I like the guy. For whatever it was worth, he was off the wall right out of the gates. I love that kind of thinking. There was some comments in that movie that I love, but again, back to understanding that feeling. If you've seen the movie and it gets close to the end and there's that buildup of him getting ready to walk out on the stage for that final set, I'm telling, I could hardly sit in my seat at the theater.
The Live Aid concert.
I could feel that excitement. You're feeling, and you're seeing the anticipation of that crowd, and you know how excited he is to walk up on the stage. And that's not fear. That is pure excitement.
Love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the way you approach Thunder now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting from the word go.
Because you build up to that countdown, and it brings you that excitement. The Thundernator, the people you have who get to trigger it.
Right.
And that's just fantastic. Well, Wayne, congratulations on 30 years, and thanks for everything you've given back to this community.
Thanks for being a part of it all these years.
What a wonderful event you've given this community.
I couldn't be prouder.
Louisville went through a stage where we didn't really have much to crow about but the Derby and Muhammad Ali, and now people like to tell their friends, hey, we've got the biggest fireworks show in America.
Right. And there's groups that come in from England, Canada, Germany. As you know, this gets rebroadcast July 4th on the Armed Forces Network that takes us into 160 plus countries and all the ships at sea. And that was such a great idea when you all created that many, many years ago, that tradition for the armed services. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. So when you go around town, people, my final question to you, people see you, you're recognizable. Everybody knows who you are what? Pam and I have talked about that. It's a shame that everybody can't get the same thing. We're out to eat or we're in the grocery store and somebody will stop me because they recognize me and want to talk about it. And I love it. I really do. It's again, because this community has wrapped its arms around it. But they probably give you their thoughts about Thunder. Oh, absolutely. And I love every bit of it. Even when I get a little finger in my face with, you shouldn't be doing it. Yeah, okay, I'll take that, sure. Did anybody say, if you remember any particular funny advice anybody gave you or some silly off the wall, you should do this? Well, most of those are, yeah, we've tried that. Where were you when that happened? But it's wonderful. And we get treated so nice. It's a shame that everybody doesn't, is not able to share that kind of feeling of just being greeted by everybody. Well, thanks, Wayne, for coming in. Thank you. Joining me on this edition of the Prophet Report podcast. Hope you all have enjoyed it. If you need to reach me, my email address is one word, dprofit. That's DPROFFITT at WHAS11.com. Wayne, how can people reach you? Do you have a website or anything you want to give out? Email address? Let's see. What is it? Yeah, I've got a Facebook page. It's Wayne Hettinger. There you go. And stop him at Kroger. Yeah, exactly. Please do.
Enjoy Thunder Over Louisville, year number 30. Thanks for listening.